Welcome to the SBP Podcast, the voice of mobile film. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you're about to listen to episode 58. My guest for this episode represents one of the pioneer mobile film festivals in the world. What I've always liked about their film festival is that they are different. They promote and include smartphone films like we do, but they allow just about any mobile device to be a part of their festival. With the words mobile innovation in their name, you can imagine that they are always looking to discover new ways to innovate the platform. This is not the first time Max has been a guest in our podcast. If you would like to, listen to more about MINA with Max in episode 41. In this episode, Max shares MINA's event and a new project in partnership with the Goethe Institute in New Zealand. Hey everybody, I am here with Max Schleser. Max is in Melbourne, Australia today, and we've had him as a guest before, but we're about to talk to him about something quite special. First of all, Max, why don't you, for our listeners who haven't heard from you before, why don't you just briefly tell everybody who you are and a little bit about MINA?
Yeah, good day. My name is Max. I make films with mobile pocket and smartphones. And I've done this for about 10, 12 years now. And about 9 years ago, I started MINA, the Mobile Innovation Networking Association, which was really to get filmmakers that use, or creatives, artists that use mobile phones or nowadays smartphones that have made films with mobile pocket and smartphones to get together and so celebrate these in a screening. And we've had run these screenings once a year on an annual film festival. We had screenings in New Zealand, Aotearoa, in Melbourne, Australia. We sometimes work with universities. We've been at Natanga Sound and Vision, which is a film archive in Wellington. We've been at ACMI, the Australian Centre for the Moving Image. And this year we will have the screening in November in China, in Ningbo.
Wow.
So it's always also like the idea of being totally mobile. The festival travels to different places, and for us that is sort of a great way to meet new local filmmakers and share their work. But of course it's an international film festival, so that means you get submissions from normally all around the world. And there's a committee of around 15 to 20 filmmakers, scholars, artists, designers, game producers, directors that look into the selecting between 16 and 20 films that are then combined into our showreel.
And this is your ninth edition?
The ninth edition. Yes, the ninth edition.
Wow, that's amazing. Max, well, first of all, congratulations on going to China.
Thank you. Yes, it's we're very excited about it. Because I think there's lots of things happening in China. I mean, generally in the tech space, but then of course also there is some, new smartphone devices that are being produced smartphone cameras that are being produced in China, are getting better and better. But I think there must also be lots of filmmakers, and so we hope that by going there and collaborating with our colleagues in Ningbo, that we will find more Chinese filmmakers and see what is happening there in that field of smartphone filmmaking, which of course is becoming bigger and bigger, and being picked up in various places around the world.
Yeah, I mean, stories are stories. Everybody who's a human being has a story, regardless of where they are. But going over there, basically, you're taking the film festival to them, so not everybody can travel.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we do with MINA as well, of course, is we are always very interested in making the connections between content creatives and the creative industries, and also filmmakers. And so we're also setting up workshops so that we can engage people that are interested in smartphone filmmaking. And so, of course, we have like a bit like the podcast and a bit like the International Mobile Film Festival. We have a bit of a community online as well. So we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter. But I think that is sort of a great way to build a community is really by going to these places and meeting the people. And I think that will be a way that we can take the past filmmakers and future filmmakers and bring them together. Because every year we put lots of work into designing a really nice program. So if you go to our website, which is www.mina.pro. So Mina is not the Italian rock singer, but it's the Mobile Innovation Network and Association. We came up with that domain name .pro. I know it means professional apparently, so we just like, let's try that. But yeah, it's mina.pro. And under the screenings section, you can see the program from each 9 years. And so there's a bit of information about the filmmakers, information about their films. And so that's very important for us to sort of, let people know what happened in the last 9 years. And of course, that's the exciting thing, I think, for smartphone filmmaking, that every year is slightly different. We see new creative approaches, aesthetics are developing further. There's lots of things happening in the tech space. So it's always like, more colorful, more vibrant than we'd expect. And I think that really what keeps Mina going, because there's a few things changing in the space. We have some filmmakers that come back to us, but we also have categories for emerging filmmakers so that, there's no competition between people that have made no smartphone films for, let's say, 8 or 10 years and someone that picks up a camera for the first time. So Mina is really for all of these different areas. And the other thing, Mina really focuses on documentary, experimental moving image arts, and it's a bit more sort of the arts, experimental, independent film festival if you look at all the other film festivals around the world.
And also because of the innovation part, including the technology that helps to get creativity and raise it, different levels, right?
Yeah. So I mean, for us, the innovation element is sort of trying new things out and trying things out in different ways. And so if our filmmakers break the rules of filmmaking, as long as it's coherent, as long as it's telling a great story, as long as it's a great aesthetic treatment or creates an experience, that is perfectly fine for us. And of course, the tools that we are using are constantly developing. So it's sometimes also very interesting to see that filmmakers have established some, let's say, slightly different rules than what you would expect to see in like the big Hollywood blockbuster productions. I mean, they're using smartphones now as well, but mobile filmmaking is a bit more about the intimate space, the personal filmmaking, the community engaged projects, some aesthetic explorations of color and camera movement. And so we had all kinds of, different experiments and editing experiments where people have mounted cameras to bikes or the weather balloons. And so it's, trying different camera angles, different viewpoints. We've had some people, filmmakers filmmakers that edit on mobile devices or, iPads, iPhones, which I think is also very interesting. What happens if you're actually editing while you're out and about, while you're on the move, and not bring the images back to the studio. And so, we're happy to see all these type of explorations.
Yeah, definitely. So I just got an iPhone XR. My other one broke down on me, so I had to clean it out. But I got this one, the XR, and I actually have room to edit on the phone now. So it's pretty cool to experiment with all that. It's about time, right? You'd think that I would have had that a long time ago. I was using the 6. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of apps now for editing. Now that you're going to go to China, though, you're probably going to find some new tech tools out there that we don't know about here in the West, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, there's like gimbals, which are very accessible these days. There's lots of drones. And I think all these sort of things are part of Mina in a way as well, because there's drones that fit in the pockets and there's gimbals that fit in the pockets. I think that's sort of the restriction that we sort of set around Mina in terms of pocket filmmaking is, everything that is mobile that you can take with you, we sort of, include in Mina. And I think there's, of course, there's some different apps that I have seen that are more established in, let's say, China than they are, outside of China. So that could be of interest for the sort of field of mobile social media, the field of editing. So different, slightly different approaches to filmmaking as well, which I think I'm very interested in about, so to see about how emerging or filmmakers in China make films with a smartphone. Because Chinese has different approaches to storytelling and different approaches to creativity, and so, or just like cultural nuances in these sort of fields of how a story is being told and the meaning of color and all these sort of things. And so I think that will also be a very interesting element to see what the films in China look like. And I haven't seen that many Chinese films, but the films that I've seen from Asia, I think they were always very interesting, the smartphone films. Mm-hmm. And so I think that could be also a great way to see what's happening in China. And I think there must be smartphone filmmakers in China.
I actually think most of the Asian, the traditional Asian films in China and Korea and all those places usually have wonderful cinematography in them. Just the way they stitch everything together to tell stories. So that should be really interesting. Well, hey, you got another project, right, coming up?
Yes. So at the moment, we launched one project in collaboration with the Goethe Institute, which is a Nucleus film competition. And the idea is really to get filmmakers and everyone with a smartphone to engage, to tell a story about their environment and sustainability. And this project will become a collaborative film that we're then producing in Wellington at a workshop. And I think the great thing about this competition is that if you submit your film, that goes through Film Freeway, and it's filmfreeway.com/MINA. There's a Nucleus competition section. It's a free submission. And we've just given creatives, filmmakers, everyone with a smartphone really some prompts, which is to think about a place that has a special meaning for them, but also film a local plant for at least sort of about 20 seconds. And that is for us is sort of like to make a curatorial decision and also to sort of create a bit of a consistency among all these different projects that we will receive, and also then ask the filmmakers so they can remember a story that relates to that place and that plant. And so for us, it's a way that we were thinking about this project that we can create some reconnections to ecology. And so there's, of course, some great, films that have used these sort of things, but also like in indigenous storytelling, for instance, or what I learned in New Zealand about Kaitiakatanga, which is an engagement with the spirits of land to tell some stories. And there are stories everywhere. And so that's sort of something that we wanted to create to the word Nucleus and to this project Nucleus. And of course, Nucleus in a way, as well as sort of what we see as very much similar, like, the nucleus being a Latin word for seed, that you get an idea, and from that idea it starts growing organically, and that can translate into a film. And so I think that is the same way that we sort of think about how a project can start growing. So from a seed to a plant, from one idea to a film. And so the competition is open now, will run to the end of August, and it will then become part of the 9th MINA International Mobile Innovation Screening.
Wow. Can you tell me just a little more about that project? Like, for example, what kind of people would be more, I mean, obviously it's for everybody with a story, but let me rephrase that. How about the kinds of stories that may really fit in that people wouldn't think about? Because when you say the environment, people naturally think about something specific having to do with the environment. But this is a little more creative than that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, we are really interested, I think, in the personal approach of smartphone filmmaking. So films can be abstract films, it can be personal films, but we are really interested in sort of embracing novel connections to places and people. And so for us, the idea is to go out and reconnect with some of the elements that we are around us we see every day, which is sort of, nature and plants, but we sort of sometimes don't give attention to this. And of course, there's lots of debates around at the moment on ecology and sustainability. There's, the demonstrations for Friday for Future. And so we thought, why can't we sort of be part of this bigger debate and see what people come up with? And so, of course, you could be inspired by, some sort of local heroes, which could be like community gardeners or zero wasters or people that live in sync with the environment. But it could also be about if you've got a memory about, something that happened at one place and then going to that place and exploring what that plant was that, where this sort of, memory happened. Or it could also be about, engaging with some of the things that you might find quite special. So whether these are like, colors in the season changes, or whether it's, the shapes and forms and colors of trees. So it can be a, quite experimental approach, or it can also be a quite, narrative driven approach. And we're very interested, especially in the sort of local environment and the cultural heritage from Australia, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Myanmar, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Mm. And this happened through the Goethe Institute being part of this project. And the Goethe Institute set this as a regional project for this area. And so the Goethe Institute is a cultural organization from Germany that has around 150 institutes around the world. And they're working with different regions on different projects. And so they approached MINA, because we've been running the film festival in MINA for quite some time. And they found this was a fantastic way to start a conversation, to engage people into, different topics. And so we set the notion of ecology and sustainability for this year, and especially with a focus on the countries. So it's Australia, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Myanmar, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And then we will select one of the filmmakers, 5 to 6 filmmakers from, the different countries to come to Wellington to then produce one film that deals with ecotourism. So I think it's a fantastic way that you not only have your film being screened in a great cinema in Wellington, New Zealand, where normally, the premiere of The Hobbit would take place, but you get your film screened there on the big screen, but also as a prize, you will win that the Goethe Institute will fly these people to New Zealand, Wellington, and we will then create with the 5 to 6 people that are invited another film. So I think, if you're a filmmaker or want to become a filmmaker or, an emerging filmmaker, I think that's the sort of the key thing. That's what we do. We make films, we tell stories. And so that was for us the way of like, how can we find people that are really passionate about ecology and sustainability and making films on smartphone films and making smartphone films? Is we have to sort of set up a mini smartphone film competition. And so, yeah, it's been just fantastic to work with the Goethe Institute. They do like all these awesome projects all the time. So we're like very lucky that we can work with them this year. And they've been really supportive. They will be part of the selection of the films, the short films that we select. So we said 3 to 5 minutes, and around it's any theme of ecology and sustainability. We don't want to set too many creative constraints, because that is sort of for us the way to see what we will really receive, which makes us very exciting.
So could it be something like recalling the natural essence of a moment, which probably one would not think is ecological or anything like that? Like, say, like you were saying before, like a story of maybe someone, let's say you and a group of people met in a forest, and then you go back to the city in New York or something, the concrete jungle, right? But then you keep having these memories and connecting them with the forest or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That exactly. I mean, it's when there was a special moment in, where you experienced flora and fauna, sort of more flora, where you, so more nature, not animals, so just nature, mm-hmm. where you experienced, have got some memories attached to it. And so I think it relates also to some of what we learned, what I learned as when I was in New Zealand, the indigenous storytelling approaches. There's a different engagement with the land around you, which is driven through stories. And I think that is a really fantastic way that we can think about things that are around us. And so embracing some of the things, some of the memories that we have, and then combining them with some of the visuals that we find in nature around us. And so it could be memories that you have if you met some important people there, but there's also people that, I don't know, just comes to mind spontaneously. People that are like, do things like, tree huggers that go out in the forest and do that. Or there's some people that, take care of forests. And there's some people that just go on hikes, and that. So the limitations are really, we don't want to set too much. It's about trying to say what you find important with a focus on ecology and sustainability.
Maybe even sending or creating a message or something that creates a message using nature, rivers and rocks, and how they connect to each other, how they flow together, and what they do together to, rocks clean the water, right? And,
Yes.
Things like that. And you can use that as a reference to something happening in society or something.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's very much a holistic approach. So that's really putting the spotlight on this interconnectivity and thinking about, a personal message that you have in relationship to this. It could also be a very abstract work, so that's also perfectly fine. You can do fantastic things with, filming water, filming reflections, and if you want to use diegetic sound, if you want to use music, as long as you get the original, releases, or as long as you record it yourself or produce it yourself, there's no limit to sort of, what we say it would have, It can have a voiceover, it can have music, it can have a diegetic sound and a kind of combination of these. So it could be very much the way you think about this project more like a poem, or it could be that you think about this project more like a diary entry, or it could be that you think about this project more like like a report or a call for action. So that, we're very open to these sort of different ideas, really.
Yeah, I'm just, because, I just wanted to simplify it a little bit, because not everybody even understands the science behind all of that, and but everybody understands stories. So by simplifying it, more people can get involved, because this is for everybody in the world, this contest, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
for the Nucleus competition, we've like the Goethe Institute set the parameters for us, and they're very keen because it's the regional of Australia, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Myanmar, New Zealand, Singapore, and Thailand, and Vietnam. So that's for this part of the world. But the other films could be submitted to the regular MINA competition. So there is sort of, that was just the way that hopefully next year we'll take it to a global level. But that's sort of something that is happening at the moment. If you're still interested in making a film from a different country, you can just produce that film and put it part into the general MINA competition. So I think the whole MINA competition this year will be more framed around these themes, probably, I guess. So that's something that we are still finding out at the moment. We've had a few films being submitted already, and so so if a filmmaker would submit a film who's not from these countries to the Nucleus competition, we would just sort of ask them if they were happy to be in the MINA competition. Sort of. I think that sort of is for us the way that it's inclusive, because that's what MINA is all about.
Yeah, so what is different between MINA this year, outside of going to China, than it has been over the last few years, or maybe what happened last year that was different from the years before? Every time I go to your website, it's MINA, and I see a lot of similarities, but I see a lot of things that I'm very curious about because they're new.
Yeah, what we have is last year we introduced a new category for mobile cinematic VR and 360 video production, which is called The Future Is Now. And so that was for us to embrace the whole space of 360 videos, cinematic VR, because of course there's lots of cameras now that are like connected to a smartphone, or that you just attach to a smartphone. You can make 360 videos. And there's of course lots of film festivals that have cinematic VR and 360 videos, but there's no one really that focus on this sort of pocket 360 camera. So we thought that would be like a new addition for us, and we had 4 films that really did really well in this space. And this year we have the open call, which is mobile, smartphone, and pocket films. And there's really no limit to it, except we say we would like to have it under 7 minutes. And for us, we just decided to have this time limit because we want to have a screening that is normally around an hour, 90 minutes. And so it seems to work best if we have like 16 to 20 films. And so like in the first year of MINA, we had like 4 days of program, but it was too much. And so we were just too excited. And, then you sort of, people don't know to which screening they should go to. And so I think that's sort of what we do is we create one program that has normally, it's a journey around the world where you've got a film from at least every continent. And then with the elements of MINA are sort of being, quite bold in terms of experimentation, quite, adventurous with the innovation, breaking storytelling, and, seeing what happens in the space. Then we've got one competition, category rather, which is New Voices. So next generation smartphone filmmakers, which is for filmmakers that, are first-time smartphone filmmakers. It could be film students. It could be someone that has picked up a smartphone for the first time. We've got the, mobile cinematic VR and 360 video production category. You've got one category for this whole space of micro formats, micro movies, mojo storytelling, and then the Nucleus competition, which is sort of part of the, curated Goethe Institute project. And so for Nucleus, it focuses on ecology, sustainability, and smartphone filmmaking. The Nucleus screening will be in Wellington in the beginning of November, and the general MINA screening will be in China at the end of the year. So it's for us also a way that we can have 2 screenings, and that sort of, was a really fantastic opportunity. So we thought that that sort of really speaks.
And you have a community. You have a community there in Melbourne as well, right? So.
Yeah, so Melbourne has been really fantastic. So last year we had a panel. What we normally do at MINA as well as we try to invite filmmakers that are from the city where the screening is hosted. So we had like a fantastic panel discussion. It was the biggest panel ever. So there were around 12 filmmakers as part of the panel.
Yeah.
And so it's a way that we have a screening, and of course most of the filmmakers also had their films in the MINA screening before. So it was a great way for audiences and filmmakers to meet and really have a bit of a conversation about the work they produced and why they produced it and what is important for that particular project. And so that sort of is always an it's I think it's a great addition that you can meet the filmmakers that have worked on these projects. And so that was for us a way really to what we're trying to do every year. And so Melbourne was really great because there's quite a few smartphone filmmakers. So we had a great panel at the Australian Centre for the Moving Image 2 years ago. And then last year we were at Swinburne University of Technology. We also had quite a few filmmakers being part of the panel and also being in the audience, of course. And so, that was really like a way to build a community and have some great discussions on what is happening in smartphone filmmaking at the moment and where is it going. So last year we had some films that dealt also with some ecological issues. We had some films that dealt with some things from violence and families to the LGBTY movements and so there was lots of political issues. There were some issues that were activist issues in a way. There were some films that were done by indigenous filmmakers from Canada. There were some films that were really great experimental projects, moving image arts work, aesthetic explorations. So some were more performative, some were more driven by the cinematography. So it's always for us a great combination to bring the things together. And of course, if we can invite the filmmakers, that would be the best thing for us. Sometimes if we can't invite the filmmakers, we ask them to send us a short video that we can at least reconnect to them this way. So that's for us. I think it's part to have also that discussion and that conversation on smartphone filmmaking next to only screening the films, which of course is great to see them on the big screen. And it's I think the curation process is also quite important. So it really shows what is happening every year in smartphone filmmaking. So I think that's also one of the exciting things why every year is slightly different, because there are some different approaches, different themes keep reappearing, and I think it tells us something about what's happening in different places in the world and how people tell stories about things and create representations.
Yeah, I think specifically for mobile filmmaking, it's just it's a unique community of filmmakers where in the traditional, and I love filmmakers. It's part of the reasons that I started the film festival. And I love how different your film festival is in many ways, and how similar it is as well, because you and I, we're both really passionate about the stories and connecting the storytellers through this medium of the camera that's in your hand, that you wear with you basically every day. And I think it's really cool in this particular community, Max, that people really do connect. They get together in a room and they're not strangers to each other. And it's almost like magical. Maybe the intimacy that we have with our smartphones, because they are kind of an extension of us every day, right? I don't know about you. I use my phone all day, every day, and I'm sure you do too, and that goes for all the filmmakers, where traditional filmmaking, their connection to the technology is only when they're going to want to shoot a film, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also about with smartphone filmmaking, you can make projects happen, right? So even if you don't have a big budget, you can really like go out. If you need some friends, maybe if you need some cast and crew, you can ask your friends. If you want to make a film with certain people, they can help telling them a story. And so I think that's one of the great things about smartphone filmmaking is you can produce these projects, and of course that means sometimes that lots of work goes in them and lots of passion and lots of time, of course, and I think everyone appreciates it. And then also I think smartphone filmmakers are happy to be more experimental, because that's a slightly different way of making a film than a conventional way. And so I think people are very much more open to filmmakers. Everyone with a smartphone can be a filmmaker. That's why I say people, I guess.
It's okay to say people, like you said, look, Max, there are people right? That they've never even touched a film, or should I say not touched a film, but basically created a film before. They've had the camera in their hand for years. They've had the smartphone, but they've never actually turned a story into a film before. And these are people that are not filmmakers by profession, right?
Yeah, but you can. I think that's sort of the key thing is like you can become a filmmaker if you want to, and I think that's sort of it can be an entryway for filmmakers. It can be a certain pathway, but also I think what I think is also fantastic to see is that even some filmmakers, even some professionals that have been working, 20 years, and let's remember that happened in one of the workshops. So one of New Zealand's most well-known cinematographers, and she was just like, oh, I've never thought about the vertical, but I find it for portraits really interesting, and it's very liberating. And she's sort of like, it was just amazing to see how like just by having slightly different conventions and slightly different framing and thinking about what you can do, how that people sort of embrace that space. And I think that's sort of then also, if it takes the full circle, also sort of nowadays, I think shows how sort of filmmaking can become slightly different. So
well, it's progress. It's circular. It's the people who just picked it up for the first time, learning and experimenting with it, and then the people who have been making films, as their profession, who are picking it up now. As a sign of progress, with the industry itself sort of going circular, so that people connect better around this medium, I think.
Yeah, so I think that's
for storytelling.
Yeah, I mean I think that's sort of I think the key thing was a smartphone is in a way very much a device about, connecting people. That's, that's the first time a communication device with a camera, with a lens. And so I think that is part of the smartphone filmmaking as well, that you create these connections between, people, connection also between the filmmaker and the audiences. And I think, yeah, so the connection is not only a technical, but also like a social and cultural element. And I think that's sort of, yeah, smartphone filmmaking embraces us very much. And so I think that was also the idea when we went to the Nucleus project. So we want to as many people as possible to take part in sharing stories and ideas on the notion of sustainability. And how can we do this? Is using the camera that most people have, which is the most accessible one. And so that sort of, I think, was the focus, and to go to MINA and work with us on setting up that project. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity that if your film has been selected, you'll be invited to be part of another film that you produce with 5 or 6 people, filmmakers from internationally. They will all come together to Wellington to produce one more film, which will then be shown at the workshop. And so, I think if we as filmmakers want to make more films, this is like a great opportunity to go out and produce this.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, it's okay to get, software or lenses or whatever, right? But that's, winning a trip to go and meet up with people and making another film. That's really exciting, Max. That's awesome.
And so the whole filmmaking process, of course, will become a bit of a workshop. So that means that we'll have presentations from the filmmakers. We'll have some presentations from some people that have done lots more work on the notion of sustainability and ecology, so that we really co-create these stories, and we will, work together. We'll set up some workshops before that we meet online. So that we're doing this now via some video conferencing, and that we can then even use the journey process of going to Wellington if we want to as part of the film, and so that being part in the workshop can also become part of this project. And of course, Wellington is a fantastic location to make a film that relates to natural elements and nature. So, and so I think it would be like a really great opportunity for everyone who has like a passion for smartphone filmmaking, who has a passion for sustainability and ecology, to become part of this project. And the selected films will also be shown. So that means there will also be like a show reel. It's the best of at the end, which I think can also be like a fantastic resource to sort of see, what you mentioned before, what is happening in this really holistic, interconnected field.
Oh, definitely. I love it. Can I go?
Make a film. Totally. It's
Well, I just think that whole area there. Remember, so for our listeners, Max was in San Diego a couple of times here, and we were up in the mountains, and you were in New Zealand at the time. When did you move from New Zealand, by the way?
So I moved 2.5 years ago from Wellington to Melbourne.
Wow, time flies.
I've lived in New Zealand for 7, almost 8 years. Before that, I lived for 10 years in London, but as you can hear, I'm from Germany originally, so I can't hide my accent. But and I think I really get into mobile phone filmmaking when I lived in London. But that's something that I've been ever since and very passionate about. And New Zealand was a great place to make films on smartphones. It's a very community engaged project that we produced there. Say we, because I did this in collaboration with other people. And then Melbourne, I think, is a very great, fantastic city for film culture and creativity. So there's lots of people that are, making awesome work in that space.
Yeah, and New Zealand is, well, I mean, I just relate everything. It's like what I was starting to say when you were here, and I was living up on the mountains up there. I don't live there anymore, but when I was, and I asked you, I'm like, does this? Or I think maybe you just said it, looking out the window of the car going down the mountain. You said, this reminds me a lot of New Zealand.
There's some California coast and New Zealand coast. There's some, I think, somehow similar but somehow different, of course. But there's some. So New Zealand is a fantastic place to make a film that includes nature, of course, and so. Wellington is a great city as well. It's a very creative hub. So it will, I think, be like a great opportunity for people. There's some great cinemas there as well. For like making this as a hub of that film production.
So you're going to you're going to close, you're already open for submissions, but
Yep.
you close submissions. Okay, let's separate this just to make it clear for our listeners. So you're open for the submissions for MINA for the Nucleus project and for the regular MINA categories as well.
Yep.
And then you close all of them in August?
The submission for the MINA project closes on the 15th of August, and for the Nucleus on the 30th of August. That was just a decision that was just made yesterday, that we give a bit more time to the Nucleus project, because not all the information is online yet. But by the time you will listen to this podcast, there will most likely be a link to the Goethe Institute website, where we'll have some more information on there. So.
Yeah, this'll be online next Wednesday, next Tuesday,
Yep.
Tuesday or Wednesday, I forgot what one of those. So that's when that is, and then when do you have so then you will, do your processing and select the films for screening and so forth. When is the MINA event? So you're going to have one there, and then you're going to have another one in China.
Yeah, the Nucleus screening will be in the beginning of November in Wellington, and the 9th edition of the MINA screening will be in the end of November in China. I'm going to China in 2 weeks' time to meet our colleagues there and set up the whole event. And so, of course, then we will put this out through the MINA webpage, through our social media, which is on Facebook, facebook.com/Mobile Innovation Network. On Twitter, we are @MINA Mobile. And of course, on mina.pro, which is the website, we'll have all the details. So, it's just because we are working, of course, in collaboration. So there's some fine tuning that needs to be done, but I think that's all part of the excitement, really.
Yeah. So you're gonna go there in about 2 weeks from now, you said?
Yep.
Oh wow! And then you're coming back. I mean, how long will you be there?
I'll be for 1 week in China at the University of Nottingham in Ningbo, where we will run the MINA workshops and the MINA screening and the MINA symposium. So every year we run it's called Mobile Innovation and Mobile Creativity Symposium. And this is a place for academics, creatives, practitioners, artists, designers to get together to showcase different projects and talk a bit more about them. So whether that's the process, whether that's the outcome, some processes that are in the making, some work in progress, some completed projects. And it's always just a really fantastic space to see what happens, in the area that is sometimes beyond the creative arts. Sometimes there are some elements that relate to, enterprise. There's some more techie elements. There's sometimes some elements that relate to community engagement. So it's always a fantastic way to think about what happens in that space. And it's such a fast-moving field. So every year is just really exciting. And there's also a bit of a community around this. So it's a great way to to share and discuss.
Yeah, you're going to be busy. I don't know how you have time to, well, I guess you're going to eat and sleep, but other than that.
I think it's part of the, it's, we're working always with in a team, so it makes it, really possible. So as MINA, there's, of course, this year, Chris just joined, who's always making all fantastic motion graphics. There's Adrian, who's also, a very well-known smartphone filmmaker, who's helping also programming. And he's also running workshops at the moment. And so, MINA, we're also a bit more of a collective, really. So I've been working with some other colleagues on the Smart Storytelling Day, which is Hillary from the Social Innovation Research Institute. And so I think at the University of Nottingham, I work with Professor Jing Xu, hope I pronounced the name right, where we're work. I think that's also the exciting thing, that every year is a bit different because we work with different people, and that keeps it very dynamic. And so from really grows the community and keeping it very dynamic.
Well, yeah, and people do get excited. It happens to me over here too, where people get really excited about this, and they want to be a part of it, of course. And you're probably one of the most collaborative festival founders that I've ever known, and I've been around just like you have. So,
It's fantastic that you keep your the International Mobile Film Festival going as well. And I mean, you know how much work it is.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the I think that's why people are so appreciative when they come and sort of connect to this community, because it's you find your tribe in a way, I guess. You sort of that people are really about celebrating and sharing the work that's been done. And so I think it's something very different if you watch a film online, or you sit in your room at home, watch it on YouTube, or if you sit in an audience, with some other people that are passionate about this. I think that's part of the great film that mobile phone filmmaking can embrace us and can open up these conversations and can engage more people and can get professional smartphone filmmakers also very excited about trying new things out and
they support each other. These filmmakers are
Yes.
more supportive of each other than I've ever known other film. I mean, I've gone to other film festivals, and they go there with their own entourage pretty much, and they watch their film, and maybe they'll choose a couple other films, and then they leave. Until it's time for the awards or something. And these film festivals like ours, there's so much more than that. And they get to support each other, and they watch each other's films together, which is really cool.
And just to sort of put it out there as well, that sort of what we say at every MINA festival is it's an open space, so we are like if people that want to join us, that's internationally or locally, that is always what we really try to achieve. So it's like getting more people involved in the community, and also having more discussions with people. And so it's a very inclusive open space, and there's a bit of a collective for MENA, different people working on it. And so I think if you look into the programs, I mean, that's why we put so much effort to them to really get them designed quite nicely every year, that references all the filmmakers and also all the people that have been part of it.
Yeah, and do you still do your do your publication at the end with all the?
So this year we've tried something new, which is because also I always wanted to have the smartphone films being made accessible to educational institutions.
Yeah.
Because you find maybe 2 or 3 films online, but then there is not one go-to space where you can find all of these films.
Yeah.
And so I've been looking a long time for what would be the right place. And so I found now the Atom Education Shop. So Atom is the Australian Teachers of Media Association. And they have an educational streaming website resource for MENA, for educational films. And the MENA screening reels are now part of this from the last 3 years. So it's I think a great way to go and watch the MENA films in a curated program, or there's different also they've made accessible for schools and institutions, that sort of way.
Now, are these for schools like colleges or high schools, or what kind of schools?
Yes, for any. There's a different sort of rates for different institutions, and so Atom advised on that, and we sort of just followed their guidelines very much.
That's pretty cool. Well, yeah, and a lot of your films are geared that way. They're very educational.
And of course, the whole idea was this is that, with watching any of these films, you'll support the next MENA edition. So MENA is a non-for-profit in that way, and it's helping us to maintain all the things that we're doing.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't just grow on trees, as they say.
No, it's that would be fantastic, but So, but I think that's okay, But I think it's also good to know that, by watching some films, you can support the next edition of a festival.
Well, yeah, because the films you're going to enjoy those films anyways. So it's good to know. Awesome. Okay. Well, what else should we share? Just a little bit about the Goethe, it's a university, right?
The Goethe Institute, they're a cultural foundation. They have got around 150 institutes around the world. And so I'm working with the Goethe Institute New Zealand, that is in the Australasian area. Those the focus on these countries. And the Goethe Institute offers language courses, but they also are very much a cultural platform, and they're also all about connecting people and embrace cultural dialogues. And so I think that's sort of very much like MINA is a networking component. And so, yeah, it's just a perfect fit, I think, for what we're doing with the Nucleus project.
I think we're in a time of evolution where people are really, really realizing the power of stories for humanity, for connecting each other, Max. And it's good to see it. And I think that's probably why you're so busy, because people are starting to realize that you're one of the perfect people and with MINA, to encourage that in the world, which is very important right now.
Yeah, I think it's a way to, embrace some conversations and change the conversation slightly to the things I think that, people think they should be running. And yeah, it's just fantastic to see what happens in the film of smartphone filmmaking. And yeah, like you said before, it's a very exclusive, welcoming community. And I think that is, just an excitement to be part of this.
Yeah.
Something that, I think keeps it going every year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, remember way back then when we both started, there were people saying this, that even smartphones weren't going to be around that long, and look at where everything is now. I love it.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Totally. Max, it's been wonderful talking to you. And for the listeners, I just want to remind you to go to mina.pro, and from there, you can cruise around on their website, right? And learn about all these things, and make sure that you take part in this competition, even though it's not a competition, but take part of it. They're on Film Freeway as well. And then what was your Facebook and Twitter again?
Facebook is facebook.com Mobile Innovation Network, and Twitter is @MINAMobile.
Okay. And then Instagram, what was that?
Instagram is coming up quite soon. So we are still, if someone is out there that is passionate about Instagram and wants to join MINA, just let us know and you will get to run it.
Okay. That's a challenge.
And Susie, also thanks again for talking to us, and being the voice for mobile filmmaking internationally. Really, it's fantastic. So, I'm a keen follower of your blog as well, of your podcast, to see all the great filmmakers that, you've curated very well. So keep going. It's fantastic.
I will keep charging on. I love it. And it's a great excuse to get to talk to you again, too. So, well, thank you very much. And let's say goodbye, everybody.
See you soon. Bye.